What's up everyone, this is David and I've been asked by a viewer of mine to do a video where I rank in order my favorite Persona games. I must tell you that this was no easy task for me since I've been playing Shin Megami Tensei and Persona games for a good while now. I finally came up with a ranking. It's my personal opinion, your ranking will probably be different and that's alright. Please let me know in the comment sections, what is your ranking for the Persona games? You gotta know that I adore all the games in the franchise, so it's like if I was ranking my own child, it's no easy task. Here's a quick disclaimer before I even start this video. I need to tell you guys that I won't include spin-offs for my ranking and I will consider re-releases as part of the game. For example, Persona 5 Royal equals Persona 5, Persona 4 Golden equals Persona 4, etc. The way that I want to tackle each game is I'll give a very brief introduction to the game and its release, then a quick story about my personal experience with the game, and I'll finish with a few words about what I think of the game and why I ranked where I did. You guys might know already, but if you don't, I'm currently doing a giveaway on the channel for a 100 subscribers special, and it's for a free copy of Catherine Full Body on the Nintendo Switch or a Steam code for Persona 4 Golden. The giveaway winner will be announced on the 7th of July. To enter, it's easy. All you gotta do is be subscribed to the channel and click the link in the description below to register. Good luck, and now onto today's video. Number 5. Shin Megami Tensei Persona or Revelations Persona. Revelations Persona was originally released in 1996 on the PlayStation 1 in North America, and the game was re-released as Shin Megami Tensei Persona in 2009 for the Sony PlayStation Portable. My personal experience with the game, I played both versions of the game. Since I was born in the 90s, I was too young to experience Revelations Persona when it first came out. In 2005, my parents bought me a PSP so I could play games like GTA, Liberty City on the go. A bit later, I bought a copy of Shin Megami Tensei Persona and I really enjoyed my experience. I did not complete the game at first at that time, but after playing through Persona 3 later on, I went back to this one and I completed it. In 2019, I also bought a PS Classic at Walmart for $20 and I played Revelations Persona. And boy, that game aged very poorly. The graphics are too much to handle in 2020 in my opinion. Some games from the same era have aged super well, like the old Final Fantasy games on Super Nintendo for example, but this one, not that much. This was my first Persona game. I have to say that this game was very different than anything else that I played at that time. The soundtrack was amazing, the dark and obscure setting surrounding our school was super creepy back in the day. I was completely immersed in my experience. What was holding back the game for me was the dungeon crawling at that age. I felt like it was a bit lacking. The design of the dungeons were a bit dull and I remember thinking that it could have been so much better. Overall, the game had an amazing story, super attractive characters, and that's why I still like it a lot to this day. The reason why I unfortunately had to put it to the last position is because even if it's an amazing game, the other games I hold closer to my heart. Number 4. Boy, I'm going to get shit for this one. Persona 3, Persona 3 FES, and Portable. Persona 3 was originally released in 2007 in North America on the PlayStation 2 and was re-released as Persona 3 FES with additional content in 2008 for the same platform. 2 years after, the game was ported to the PlayStation Portable as Persona 3 Portable, but without the additional content from FES for some reason. My personal experience with Persona 3 is something that I remember very fondly. Persona 3 was my second Persona game that I played. When I played it for the first time, I adored it. It was revolutionary for me to play a PS2 game where I felt like it was another life, but under another character, video game basically. The high school setting was fitting for me at the time, and the cast of characters probably my favorite in the whole franchise until this day. The graphics were super good for the time, the story was unlike anything else that I played on my PS2, it felt super good to beat a 100-hour RPG since at that time I was not yet a major RPG fan. I did not have a bunch of RPG under my belt. At that point I was all into games like Final Fantasy VII or Dissidia Final Fantasy, stuff like that, so Persona 3 was super refreshing for me. And Unfortunately, I skipped Persona 3 FES at first, but I did play it later on PS3 when it was re-released on PSN, and I bought Persona 3 Portable day one, really liked it as well. As mentioned previously, I fell in love with the main party and all of its characters. They're not cliche and they're definitely unique from anything else in the franchise. The story I thought was super cool once it picks up. I remember thinking at first that it was a bit long before anything happened in the story, but looking back on the game, it's definitely not that bad with all the side activities, all the social links that there is in this game. Which brings me to talk about those social links. There's a bunch of them in Persona 3. When I played the game back on the PS2, those were pretty cool. But now that I played games like Persona 4 and 5, I have to say that it's easy to see that this is where the concept of building social links with the characters in the game started. In P5, I had a really good time completing all the confidence stories, and I was looking forward to learn what would happen to some of the characters like Dr. Takemi or the politician Yoshida. In P3, it's different. Some of the social links are super cool, such as Shihiro, while some others are extremely dull, such as Kenji. Another thing about the game that I did not like as much is Tartarus. At first, I felt like it was a bit boring. It's basically, it's kind of a grind, at least for me, to climb to the top of the tower. Every level of the tower is more or less the same in its design. The bosses are not very memorable, and it's just not that appealing for me for some reason. I feel like I'm roasting the game here, but overall, it's a very good game, and it made me fall in love with the genre, so I'll always be grateful for Persona 3, but I think it might not have aged as well as its successors, unfortunately. It's still an amazing game, and I recommend all of you guys to give it a try. Number 3. Persona 4 and Persona 4 Golden. Persona 4 was originally released in 2008 in North America for the PlayStation 2. The game was also re-released as Persona 4 Golden on the PlayStation Vita in 2012, and 8 years later, we got a Windows PC version as well in June 2020. This one is special for me since I was anticipating its release so much. After playing through Persona 3, I dropped the PS2 for a while and I was playing a bunch of GameCube with its numerous hits such as the Zelda games, Smash Brothers, Resident Evil, and a bunch of other games. When I heard that Persona 4 was coming out though, I was super excited, and the release of the game proved that I was right to be excited. The game felt similar and yet so different to Persona 3. It was super cool to explore Inaba and discover all about the Midnight Channel. The idea behind another dimension behind a TV was super intriguing and exciting at the same time. I remember spending numerous hours just completing all the side stories, and I remember having a blast with its story. The game did a lot for me. I was really even more into JRPGs when Persona 4 came out, so I understood more of its mechanics that I might have missed in Persona 3. The story was, as I said, super different. I liked it. The characters were pretty cool. Not as much as in P3 in my opinion, but still, the gameplay was what I learned to love from Persona 3, but with cooler dungeons, a more interesting story. The soundtrack in this game still rocks, man. I listen to it until this day. Playing Persona 4 Golden on PC in 2020 is still a blast. I would recommend this game to anyone who wants to get into Persona or even into JRPGs in general. Amazing game from an amazing franchise. Number 2, Persona 2 Innocence and Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. I know, I'm cheating a bit here. 2 games, one place, but those are sequels, they're together. They need to be together. Persona 2 Innocence came out exclusively in Japan in 1999 and was re-released for the PlayStation Portable in North America in 2011. Persona 2 Eternal Punishment though was released in 2000 on the PlayStation in North America. Since I was not born in Japan, I had to wait for Innocence to be localized here in the West, and I did not play Eternal Punishment at first. It always felt weird to me that Atlus would give us Eternal Punishment, the sequel to Innocence, but not Innocence, the first game. Needless to say that when 2011 arrived, where Innocence was released on the PSP, I bought the game right away since I was a big fan of the franchise at that point, played it, adored it. The story has to be the best aspect of this game for me. The rumors surrounding your school and the summon of Joker for the first time was truly breathtaking. Everything was so good about the story that once you're done with Innocence, you just cannot skip Eternal Punishment. After playing through the first Persona on PSP, I remember being super glad when I realized that it was now possible to change personas during battle. The environments which I complained about for the first game are not that much better, but still an improvement. You don't have the first person view in the dungeon anymore, but an over-the-top view of your character going around town. After coming out of Persona 3 and 4, it was extremely refreshing to return to the style of the first Persona game that made me fall in love with the franchise. Some might say that it's nostalgia why I put Persona 2 to the second place, but I honestly feel like those games are extremely underrated and overlooked by many, especially Atlas, unfortunately. But if you guys, because I know there's a bunch of you guys, but if you only played 3, 4, 5, please check out 1 and 2. You must play those games. They're amazing. They're different, but they're extremely good. I am probably going to get some 8 for this, but number 1 is Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 was initially released in 2017 in North America for the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4. The game was re-released as Persona 5 Royal in 2020, exclusively for the PlayStation 4 this time. My personal experience with Persona 5. Well, the wait for P5 was terribly painful, to say the least. I'm all for video game delays because most of the time it means a better end results, just like for this game, but the wait for P5 was extremely long. P4 came out right after P3, so I was definitely not expecting a 9 years of waiting before the 5th installment in the franchise. Needless to say that I bought the game on day 1, Phantom Thieves Edition. I was super hyped. In my opinion, Persona 5 improved on so many aspects from the other games in the franchise. The story, while it does have some issues with the pacing of it all, it is still on a whole other level. From its characters, to its design, to its general concept of stealing hearts, Persona 5 excels. The idea of finding a corrupt criminal and steal his goddamn heart, make him confess all of his crimes feels so damn good. When I played the game for the first time when it released, after every palace, I was so hyped to see what would happen next in the story. I feel like Persona 5 also added a bunch of cool mechanics to the game that the other installment in the franchise did not have, and that was great. Yes, Mementos was a bit bland in the design and music department, but the side stories, the request for the Phantom Thieves, where you had to get into Mementos, were super interesting and super fun to complete as well. Yes, Morgana was annoying. I even thought it was more annoying than Teddy, but some of the characters were truly interesting and made for a super enjoyable experience. The soundtrack in Persona 5 has to be my favorite video game soundtrack of all time, with hits such as Rivers in the Desert or some sick ambient music like the gunshot beat or the Bank Palace, etc. This game also has a great tutorial that makes it super easy for any series newcomers, but not too long for series veterans to be bored. I'm looking at you, Twilight Princess. I personally introduced a bunch of my friends to the series with Persona 5. It brought a bunch of fans to the franchise, and I'll always be grateful for that since Persona is an amazing series of games. Then 2020 arrived. Atlus re-released the game with Persona 5 Royal, which of course I completed since I like the vanilla version so much. Royal expanded on what made the original so good. The third semester is the major additional content for the game. You get to play this part of new content at the end of the main story. It is a fantastic addition to the original story. The new characters that were added to the main story, like the Dr. Maruki, were exceptional additions to the game, and they don't feel like a forced addition in the story. They just feel natural. And I'm looking at you, Mary from Persona 4 Golden. She felt super out of the main story. It felt like a forced addition into the main story. It's definitely not the case with the new characters in Royal. I feel like without Persona 5 Royal and the amazing ending of it, Persona 2 might have been my number 1. But for all the reasons that I stated, I had to put P5 at number 1. While I could talk about this game for hours, I'll leave it at that and tell all of you guys who haven't played it yet to go check it out. Treat yourselves it has to be one of the best JRPGs of all time. So overall, Persona is an amazing franchise. I can recommend all the games to anyone who likes JRPGs. Please check them out. If you want me to review some of the games from the franchise, I know that I haven't done any review for them, please let me know in the comment section below. And as I mentioned previously, I'd like to hear, what are you guys' ranking for the Persona games? Which game is your favorite? Please let me know. And if you want more content on Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, or Atlas, don't hesitate to click that subscribe button and leave a like. That really helps to support the channel. See you next time.